and afternoon. It is Wednesday, 9 a.m. Pacific. Welcome all to the Sharing Show. I'm Kane, and today I'm joined with David, better known as the Workday Sharing Guy, Caroline, Logan, Teresa, and special guests.
Thanks, Kane. Can you tell me what is the most important thing about the Zoom chat?
It's really important that everybody switches to all attendees and all panelists when they send out any chats or want to interact with anybody on the show. We really encourage that you share on this show. It's called the Sharing Show, so please make sure you change all to all panelists and all attendees. And with that said, I think it's over to you to start the show.
Thank you so much. So very often your default is set at only to panelists, and so only I'm going to see your comments. Make sure you change that. And to test that, what I'd like you to do is enter into the chat if on the next show that we're going to do for Calc field examples, if you would turn your camera on and share your face near the start. If you would, then type a Y for yes. If you would maybe, then type M for maybe, if others are sharing their faces also. If that's no chance, then type N, no chance, camera will be off. And if you're unable to attend, just put a U there so we know we'll miss you next week and we'll see you next time. Now we'd like to introduce Carolyn, our co-host for today's show.
Hi, thanks for having me back. Caroline from New England. If anyone was here a few weeks ago, I was on the Dashboard show. Happy to come along this time and talk about Cont. That's my background. I'm an old Cont person that joined the Workday world about 5 years ago and never looked back. I pinch myself every morning, glad that this is what I do. I'm now working as a consultant, focusing on post-implementation support, and we've got a few mugs from, I think that is a pre-Rising Share-a-thon back in Chicago, and then one in Vegas, and then last year where David, the Workday Sharing Guy from 2 years ago, he bet against the Red Sox and the Patriots when they played LA, and he's a good sport, and for a solid year wore New England gear. And now that we have a dearth of sports, it's fun to see that photo again. So thanks, David.
That's great. Thanks, Caroline, and welcome back. Today we're going to do Comp, and in a couple of weeks we're going to look at some Calc field. Then we're looking at benefits on the 19th for open enrollment. September 2nd, we have a blank spot before we go to advanced comp on the 16th. So if you are interested in co-hosting, if you have a theme that you want to share, then make sure you reach out to us. You could be the co-host for September 2nd. We would be looking at anything you're interested, lots of different themes to choose from. You can check out the sharingshow.com and reach out to us, and we'll be excited to talk with you.
Thanks so much, Logan. What's next on the agenda?
Up next, we're going to welcome Kim from Maine and Mugmates.
Thank you so much. Can you hear me okay?
Yes. Hi, Kim.
Hi. So I absolutely love what this photo of David and I with our mugs represents. I remember when my company was signing our Workday contracts in mid-2010, believe it or not, and I thought it would be so cool to have Workday customer number 150. That was what I was shooting for. Little did I know the destiny of landing customer 149 and how that would play forward. When I first met David in November of 2010, I think, David, you were developing the training classes and materials for the just introduced Workday Studio platform tool. And I remember talking to you about the importance of training my Asia-based HRIS team during their daytime when their brains could be fresh to absorb and put into immediate practice what they'd be learning. Because we only had 3.5 months before go live, and we needed to develop 20 go live integrations in the Workday Studio tool. So crazy, crazy schedule. In his always supportive way, David, you delivered what I believe may have been Workday's first ever Asia time zone live Workday training. Am I right there?
Yeah, it was. So the first ever training of Workday Studio, other than consultants when I did that one first, was, you guys. And I was starting at 10 or 11 at night. So hats off to you, Kim, for starting your time at 1 or 2 in the morning so that your offshore team could work on their normal hours.
And I know when we were scheduling all of our other Workday trainings, none were offered live in the Asia time zone. So we just love the fact that you made that happen for us. And it definitely made for some long days. When later on, when we discovered that David's employee number and my customer number were both number 149, it just seemed to be destiny. So that was so cool. David, I love that you continue to actively support sharing in new and engaging ways in the community of Workday customers and ecosystems. There is ever and always so much more for all of us to learn and share. So thank you, thank you. And to everyone else out there, do you know who your mugmate might be?
Yeah, Kim, thank you for your thank you. Let's continue this sort of sharing and fun that we have. I wonder how many people can find their mugmate that Kim and I accidentally found each other after that early morning training. All right, Kim, thank you.
Thanks so much, David and Kim. What a great story. Let's now hear about some brainstorms with Floyd from Tennessee.
Good morning. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Welcome back, Floyd.
Hi, Floyd.
David asked if I'd mention a couple of brainstorms. So I picked two that really are more important on our radar because of what's happened with the current pandemic situation. The first one is regarding Workday Learning. And when we were design partners and early adopters with Workday Learning, this feature was something that was not part of the MVP release, minimally viable product, but was actually something that was in phase 2, but it hasn't happened yet. And what this is targeted towards is learning that is very confidential about internal company processes, or in the case of manufacturing, it may even be about running equipment and how to set up certain equipment in the plant that's also very confidential. And the idea is that you need to be able to flag certain learning content that it's only to be consumed inside the firewall. And so this is something that, particularly with the inability, we're having to switch significantly to almost eliminate instructor-led training, and a lot of peer-led training that was close contact training also is going to have to be virtual. And so I wanted to mention this in case others have similar situations, that they would be aware of this idea and not only vote on it potentially, but also add your refining thoughts to the thread of the idea, so that that's actually more important than just votes, is to help shape it for Workday. The other one has probably been around a really long time, but it's also more important right now. And when Workday started many years ago talking about what they called the Workday Communications Framework, where you're going to be able to choose avenues of communications, which would include SMS text messaging. That hasn't come along yet, except for relationships with outside parties, things that don't happen natively in Workday. And that has become more important during this time, to communicate very quickly with the type of messaging that people normally use on their devices. So it's got a lot of votes on it. It does have a JIRA, but I wanted to call it out so that if anybody hadn't seen it, they could also help shape that as well. And that's the two that I was thinking of for today.
All right. Thank you, Floyd. Let's make sure people know that if they have any questions about these brainstorms, they could use the chat for that, right? Just make sure you're chatting to everybody.
So what's next up on the agenda?
Up next, we're going to go back to our co-host, Caroline, and she is going to share with us a little bit more about deprecated compensation snapshot.
When David first asked me about hosting a comp show, I joked that I thought this could be group therapy for this next subject, which is all the deprecated fields that are in the comp plan assignment snapshot business object. Anyway, so group therapy, I have seen many posts on community that have to do with moving away from the comp plan assignment snapshot business object. And maybe you found it out yourself by running a report and noticing that your bonus plan now said do not use. I first came in contact with them about 5 years ago trying to report on allowance plans, and created 77 calc fields in order to report on these specific allowance plans in a particular way. There's a phenomenal post on Community about this change. Thanks, David. Community is your friend, particularly whether you are experienced or just starting out, because I know we have a range of users on the call. Community is your best friend. And if you don't believe it, this post about comp plan summit reporting has been read over 10,000 times. So you have a lot of company if you now realize that you have to update hundreds of reports and calculated fields. There's also a video. Workday has done this very carefully. There have been posts. Couldn't you just update everyone's fields from behind the scenes? But the fact is companies, organizations are different. And depending on how you're using these fields, there are many applications, there's integrations. This was not possible. They are giving 18 months, but they've also provided a really neat tool, this comp plan assignment migration report. This is Workday delivered. You can run it as is. If you're curious and would like to know more about what are those business objects are included, I clicked the more just out of curiosity. If you want it, I would recommend doing this on the macro level, clicking OK. And what you are returned with is a report that will list the current field names and the current business objects, the description, and then what the alternate report field is, along with where that can be found and where it's being used. In this particular instance, these are all calculated fields. The usage is blank just for privacy reasons, obviously. You may also see custom reports in the area. You might see calculated fields as shown here. Integrations, it depends on your tenant and how you have things configured. But in the course of going through this, and doing some more research on my friend community, I came across some great posts, and it's very fun for me to hear Floyd, because I came across the next two pieces from posts by Floyd. If we just flip back to that report fields using retired report fields in use, this is something you really should be running every week in your tenant. You can copy it. This is a delivered report, and there are some great suggestions that other users have made about other fields in terms of be helpful for you understanding how it's being used. And the next one is the condition report, condition rules using deprecated fields. Again, this is a delivered report. This is something you should be running every week in your tenant and making sure that you update these fields so it's not as onerous as this moment might seem to you right now. Taking time to test all your reports and making sure that it is returning the data that you are expecting. And what about integrations?
Okay, I will jump in here for the integrations part, Caroline, because I have seen with some clients I work with, they write reports, they turn them into integrations, if you will, RAS, reports as a service, and they give away the URL and then an ISU and a password. So sometimes, you can't run an integration. You just have a report that you've exposed. So you really need to find all the reports that you've web service enabled. I haven't found any easy way of testing this other than doing it manually. So, the question is whether or not to panic or not panic. I'm going to say that when it comes to integrations, I don't know of any easy way to test to make sure that all the integrations are going to run other than doing them manually. So if anyone has any ideas on that, I'm interested in seeing it in the chat. Caroline, back to you with more of your list here.
This is something that's been a thoughtful process from Workday. They are looking at how many customers are still using these deprecated fields. You do have 18 months. So we say don't panic. Release is 2020 R2 is already open. So hopefully you can get yourself up to speed on this before we look at what's coming next down the road. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Caroline. What's next up on the agenda?
Next, we're going to have Ryan from Dallas join us, and he's going to talk about compensation plan assignment security segments. Welcome, Ryan.
Thank you. It's great to be with all of you today. For this section, I'm going to remind you of useful configuration that limits the visibility of compensation plans for select roles. It is a business need which is fairly common, but I do see a variety of different workarounds in tenants. For this example, we're going to use the use case of managers should not see certain bonus and stock plans for their employees. To resolve this, we're going to create a compensation plan assignment security segment followed by the companion segmented security group. Then we will replace the manager security group on relevant domains with the new segmented security group, and we're done. Easy peasy. Now, keep in mind that this security segment identifies the plans that should be seen. It is additive, not subtractive. That's important to understand because it seems to be it's opposite from what you would maybe expect. There are 3 sections necessary to create a compensation plan assignment security segment. First, you must have a name. This is a required field. Second, if all plans of a certain plan type are allowed, select the type to add in funded plan types. This will mark 100% of the plans with that type as included. Thirdly, use the final area to specify select plans from all other areas to include individually. So you will have to make individual selections here. Next step is we need to create the companion segmented security group. And this is where we identify the security groups and the segments that will be connected together. So on the left, you'll see the groups, and on the right, you'll see the security segment that we just created. Now remember, in this example, we wanted to limit plan visibility for managers, but you'll also see managers manager and management chain here as well. If you do not include these, only the manager's direct reports will be screened, while compensation for all downstream employees will remain visible. Keep this in mind if you have a similar example or if you have a similar situation. After you save the segmented security group, you can use related actions to quickly add this group to all relevant domains. Do not forget to remove the manager, manager's manager, and management chain from those domains where you added the security group. This is the only way it'll work. It's a replace. You remove those original roles and you add in instead the segmented security group in those areas. Our example today, you focused only on managers, but obviously your example could be different. Your scenario is going to be different. Perhaps you want to limit visibilities for employee itself, maybe recruiters or some other role. The approach to this is identical to what I have described. The only drawback is that any new plans that you create, you must also go back to your security segments and make sure that those plans are added and removed to those security segments. If you forget this step, the visibility results will differ.
Thanks so much, Ryan. What's up next on the agenda?
Thanks, Ryan. That was great. Next, we're going to go back to our co-host, Caroline, with an example of transposed reports. Welcome, Caroline.
Thanks, Ryan, for sharing that. I'd like to offer an alternative to how you can limit what employees see about their compensation, because I know this has been an issue. And I saw an interesting workaround from a company that uses a transposed report. And I think if you look at the number of reports that are created in Workday, transposed probably make up less than 3% of all reports. And I look at it as a variation of an advanced report. This is one that's delivered, compare team. It's part of the My Team Management dashboard. When you see that more button, say in this instance, 25 items, if you were to click it, the 2 columns with Evelyn and Oliver would flip to the left-hand side, and across the top you have 25 columns of data. Instead, you get to look at this nice report that has grouped fields that give you information about their job, their compensation, and their performance. So it's a very easy report. You can copy it, you can add in your own information, and you can either leave the groups, the job, base pay, bonus, stock, performance here, either default to open or closed. And in this particular instance, these are all the fields in Compare Team. And the reason I like this is because you can use this on your Comp tab instead of the Workday Delivered Comp report. So typically, this is an Espresso report. It gives you your base salary, maybe you have comp basis, information about grade, ranges, whether or not you share ranges, and then all these funded plans. So if you use the example from Ryan, you can limit how employees and managers can see these funded plan assignments. Well, I ran into a client that just really didn't like this configuration. So instead, they used a transposed report. They used the data source all workers, and put a filter in that would allow you to only see, when the worker runs it, they only see their information. Yeah, I've done a little group by to group their job, and you can leave those in or out depending on whether or not. But I think they're kind of fun. I've used them for performance reports as well. And the next slide, I show the filter where worker is, you prompt the user for value, and that's a default field. And what you get is you add this configure profile group, add this report to the tab, and when employees look at it, they will see their information and the information that you want them to see.
Caroline, thank you for this. I'm going to go back because I think to make it clear to people, the transpose, you said maybe 3%. I doubt even 1% of Workday reports are transposed reports. But without doing this as a transposed report, you would have just one row for Evelyn, and you'd have to scroll left and right, right? So the whole idea is to show Evelyn's data vertically, right? And that's what you liked as, you know, compared to this or in addition to this screen, these screens here. Is that the important point?
Some companies choose, you're very limited in terms of what you can array here because it's an espresso report. So instead you can hide Workday delivered report, hide this, and
okay, thank you, Caroline.
Thanks, David.
Thanks so much. Now, next, we have Juliana from Florida with ZCF calculated field names.
Hi, everyone. This is Juliana from Florida. Today, I wanted to share our journey to the ZCF naming convention because it has made my life so much easier. So after being in live in Workday for about 5 years, it became abundantly clear to us that we needed to do something about our calculated fields. It was really difficult to differentiate calculated fields from Workday delivered fields, and they were all mixed together in our fields list. So we ended up spending a lot of time scrolling endlessly through jumbles of non-applicable fields, and we couldn't really determine if an applicable field even existed. By luck, I happened to tune into the sharing show when they were discussing naming conventions, and I learned about David's ZCF naming convention. By using the ZCF naming convention for our calculated fields and a consistent 3-letter abbreviation, all of the calculated fields would sort to the bottom of the list, allowing all the Workday delivered fields to rise to the top. And because the calculated fields are grouped by function, you can then easily check if a field already exists before creating a new one. However, there was a problem. Having been live in Workday for 5 years, we already had around 4,000 calculated fields. So it looks like the time today is pretty short. So I went ahead and wrote up how we did it in Community, and there should be a link on the screen right now, so please go check it out. I also included the report definition that we used to identify fields to rename and kind of streamline the whole system. I just really want to let you guys know it was so well worth the effort, and it saves me time and frustration every single day. Calculated fields are present in every aspect of Workday configuration, and having them well organized makes a world of difference. I don't scroll endlessly anymore. My searches for fields are purposeful, and it feels like I know exactly where I need to look. So I hope my share today makes your Workday better.
Thank you, Juliana. I love your story because I've been before, several live sessions I did like all of April, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I was doing live sharing. The pandemic had just started, and somebody else is driving, right? I'm watching their screen, and they're looking for cost center. And I got to tell you, they must have gone through like 200 or 300 or 400 CFs before they got to cost center. And of course, they went past it and had to go back. So what a great story that you explained more on Community also as to like how you did this.
Thank you.
And if you're interested in the community links, this is a really great way to go about it, but you can find all of the community links on the sharingshow.com. You just go to the themes page and select compensation, and then you'll get a list of all the community links.
For people in the chat who are watching for the brainstorms that Floyd brought up, I mean, all the links that you've seen so far, they're all right here shown on this page.
Next up, we have Marilyn from Canada and her happy birthday present.
Hi, everybody. Hope everyone's doing well today. I think most people know by now, or if not, you may be hearing it for the first time today. I was the lucky winner of not one, but 2 Apple Watches through David's contest. Because I already have the first prize, I decided to award someone the second Apple Watch based on their birthday if the stock should rise back up over 200 and hit 201 penny.
No, Marilyn, it's such a great story. Earlier on we said it's raining Apple Watches. We're giving away 4 Apple Watches during this season. And the first 2, you won them both.
Yes.
So on community here, we have the rules. The birthdays that are in here are only those who were live on that show, right? So sometimes when you're live on the show, you get to participate. We had over 80 people put in their birthday. So it could cross over 200 and then a penny on a day that somebody it's not their birthday. So we go 6 months or 3, so we celebrate half birthday, third birthday, quarter birthday. And if those don't work, we do a 200-day plus or minus using a Calc field, which will be an example you'll see in the next show in 2 weeks. But, who cares about any of this, right? The important part is not really who's going to win the Apple Watch, but something else that you introduced, a couple of puppies.
Yes. When I unintentionally won the second Apple Watch, I was bottle feeding 2 orphan puppies at the same time that the show was airing. And that added some extra excitement when I won the Kahoot that day. This is Fitz and Fiona. They came into care 7 weeks ago today, and I bottle fed them for 3 weeks. And now they are about 8 weeks old, and they will be available for adoption by this weekend. They are 2 fosters with an organization here in Alberta called the Alberta Animal Rescue Crew Society, and they're headquartered in Calgary. And every year they rescue thousands of animals, and they're supported by over 1,800 volunteers and foster parents across Alberta.
Well, okay, I didn't know, Marilyn, until right now that these 2 were available. I'll take the one on the right.
Okay, yes, he's very popular right now.
Okay, to wrap up, just even though that's just all, well, not everyone will say, but for me, puppies are more important. But let's take a look. The Workday stock came close to 200 recently, but now it's back down below 190. But 2 weeks ago exactly, during the show, I was checking. So we actually hit 200. It has to be 200 and a penny. So during the show, that picture shows what it was during the show. The start of the very next day, it was exactly 200, but it didn't hit 200 and a penny. I was on LinkedIn with somebody because it wasn't their birthday or 6 month or 3 or 4 month. It was a 200-day Calc field where someone was going to win and she didn't even know. I said, "Are you watching?" She said, "Oh, somebody almost won." I said, "Do you know who that somebody was?" And she couldn't believe that she was 1 penny away. And so we're still waiting for that.
Yes, I watch it every day as well because that'll be fun. I'm really enjoying the first one, so I hope someone will really enjoy this one.
Thank you again, Marilyn.
Thanks, David.
Thanks so much, Marilyn. This is a wonderful opportunity to see the puppies. Now we would really like to thank our co-sponsors. First, we have David, the sharing guy. And David is providing the home of this amazing customer sharing movement for Workday. You can join the customer sharing movement and help with the pre-Rising 2020 Share-a-thon by going out to davidthesharingguy.com.
We'd also like to thank Kane and Dovetail. Dovetail provides HR service delivery software that reduces the number of questions into HR by over 50%. Dovetail also provides emergency response management software that provides HR with the tools to manage all coronavirus-related questions from employees, along with symptom checking and contact tracing. Dovetail is also tracking COVID-19 case volumes from HR teams globally. To learn more, please visit dovetailsoftware.com. So thank you, Kane, and thank you, Dovetail.
As we're wrapping up, something that came up that Teresa and Logan have mentioned, if you go to thesharingShow.com and you go to content, under themes, you will see Comp. That's today, July 22nd. You could click on that. You'll get all the links from today's show. You can also join our LinkedIn group. That's where you get special hints before the show. For example, enter your birthday during the show and you might win an Apple Watch. Also, you'll see a link to all the previous shows. You'll see here, like the previous show just 2 weeks ago was on Prism. That's already surpassed some of the other shows as far as being watched on YouTube. So Kane, it's been another great show. You get to wrap us up.
Excellent. Thank you, David, Caroline, Logan, Teresa, and special thank you to our guests for speaking on the show today. As always, we will post this recording onto our YouTube channel as well. Please head over there, like and subscribe, click the notifications bell so you'll get notified when new episodes post up. And as David said, don't forget about our website. And I think all that's left for today's show is to say to everybody, have a great work day.